What's up, guys? We are back with the second of the two PowerCon exclusive Mythic Legions Motu tributes, and we're taking a look at the figure whose name I have no idea how it's actually supposed to be pronounced. I don't know that I've heard it pronounced yet because they very much love making names that are just weird enough. So this is the Webstor tribute, and this is OKEAETOS, I think is how it's supposed to be pronounced. If it's not, you know, someone might tell me down the road, but we've got a very weird figure here. There's a lot of crazy stuff from color scheme to parts mashup to having the forearm attachment on its back. It's again, just like with the Stratos tribute, one that I did not have on my radar. So a big surprise, but one that I'm nonetheless looking forward to. There's a lot of skeleton stuff here, so I'm pretty excited to begin with. Now, of course, this guy comes in a standard Mythic Legion style packaging, so you've got your figure there in the window, collector friendly, you can put it back in if you need to, faction card on one side, bio card on the other, and then the backer card for this wave, just like with Zenithon, has the Ilithia artwork. Again, I don't know if when All-Stars 5 is said and done, this figure's going to have that same artwork, but currently, since that's the current wave shipping, it does make the most sense to see the Ilithia artwork on this one. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, the second Motu tribute figure from PowerCon in the impending All-Stars 5 Plus wave, the half vampire, half skeleton thing, spider monster, OKEAETOS, or whatever it's supposed to be called. Again, I don't know. I'm going to say it 100 different times in the wrong way, probably. We'll find out together what is or isn't correct, but I'm pretty excited about this one because I like Webstor, and of course that's what this is supposed to be for. But the idea of a skeletal knight, basically, is what we've got. What we've got here is a base body with vampire heads and the Ilithia back arm contraption. It's weird, and this was not on my radar because, well, mostly because I forgot about this thing back here. So I would have never thought that we had a way to do Webstor. I just sort of forgot about it, you know. I don't have my Ilithia wave stuff yet, so it's not fresh in mind. But it's a cool idea and definitely works. It works in terms of how Webstor is designed. So pretty cool stuff. Let's see what this guy can do, though. You know, see how it moves around. It's a 2.0 figure, so a little bit different from the Stratos Zenithon figure that I last talked about. But it's still pretty normal. So we've got a head that can look up slightly, down not much. There's not a lot of range on this head because it's long. You've got rotation though, not really any tilt, maybe a little bit of, yeah, you got a little crook there. Arms out at the shoulders. I'm kind of holding on to this back piece because moving him around, you're probably going to notice this thing might fall off. It stays in there really well, but I just want to make sure I'm not going to send it across the room. Arms out. They do rotate, but if you've got the arm piece on, it's going to obviously get in the way. We've got hinges at the elbow, single hinge, and your rotation. You've got your swiveling gauntlets, hinge, rotation at the wrist, normal stuff there. We've got our 2.0 body again, so it's got a little bit of bobble up and down. See, there it goes. I popped it off, just like I said was going to happen. So you've got hinge up and down, a little bit of tilt side to side, and then you've got rotation up there. You've also still got rotation down at the waist, though. So it's like a, you know, it's just a diaphragm cut, basically, is all it is. So back to, well, the back. So we've got arms. And these are normal arms. So you've got hinges, rotation at this sort of connector here, and then you've got your single jointed rotating elbow, and then you've still got wrist, and you've got rotation, your wrist hinge rotation up there. What's really interesting about these, and you know, we'll talk about it more, is that the forearms on these are fully bone, which is not normal. You know, this is Ilithia's back piece, basically. So it's different. You know, you could, if you want, you can swap your arms out, and you've got 4 arms here with style posy kind of hands, too, which is also kind of cool for, you know, part swappers, customizers, that kind of thing. Legs go all the way out because, you know, skeletons, they really have nothing in the way here. Forward all the way, but being a skeleton, there are no thigh cuts on this figure. That's kind of the one drawback when it comes to being a skeleton. You've got your single jointed knee with a little bit of rotation there, a little bit of shimmy. And then we've got rotation down at the foot, and then at the ankle, really, really nice rocker, nothing getting in the way, and then really good hinge as well. So if you've messed with any 2.0 skeletons, or, well, really any 2.0 figure in general, that's more of like the slender kind, you know exactly what you've got going in here. Very similar to the 1.0, the only real big difference is that you've got that diaphragm cut. Of course, this figure has a lot more points of articulation, but when it comes to this back piece, it's literally just arms. So they work just like any other arm because they are just regular arms shoved into this new weird back adapter. Of course, I have to say it with this one. The looks on this figure have got to be the main draw. Well, at least as far as the figure itself goes. I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there who want to rip these arms apart and use them for other things, paint them up and use them on different skeletons because you've got those exposed forearms and you've got these style pose hands. But at base level, this is a very, very unique looking figure. And it's not just because of the color, it's because of these parts. It's all stuff we're familiar with on the base body. So, we've got like the knight style armor, the 2.0 sort of elven vampire knight kind of armor, and normal skeleton arms with that sort of riveted on armor, which I always love. How is this stuff actually connected? I'm just assuming that they've just jammed those in with like nails or something. So they've all got this like plate armor that wraps down there. And then you've got sort of like the Dark Knight style gauntlets and shin guards, but we've got our exposed feet as well. You've got exposed skeletal thighs, and you've got, the bone arms. But this is not just a skeleton. There's no skeleton head included here. This is a mashup of vampire and skeleton. So you've got the skeletal body with the sort of vampire knight kind of armor for the torso, which again is very Webstory. It's got that sort of dark blue with a little bit of dry brushing to kind of make it look a little worn. And then you've got the red and the orange in the center. And then you've got little hits of silver there for those buckles, because of course all the little stuff has to also be painted. But it's the head that really kind of makes this thing just a little bit different. Well, outside of that, because the head is a vampire. So that's very much the thing. It's like a combining of two races when it comes to this figure into a different third race. So you've got your kind of standard vampire, the unhelmeted vampire knight's head basically done up in Webstor colors. So you've got this really deep blue for all the bones and the head, but you've got the 4 little dots on the forehead. You've got the really deep red eyes. And I think it's a really cool idea. Like when you think about it, when you look at Webstor, he's definitely supposed to be like a spider guy, but this works to make like a spider guy because you've got fangs, and then you can transform the head by adding those little dots on the top and giving it those red eyes. So frankly, it's kind of an ingenious way to make Webstor out of existing parts without having to do anything different. Because again, I didn't expect this to happen. It's a very unique look for a figure, and I think they worked within the confines of the line to make it work as well as it can. Now, of course, this is all the same normal Horseman sculpting and painting you would expect. And what I really like about this figure, even beyond the fact that it has the crazy back thing, is the color. Because this is a color, just like with the Stratos tribute, that we don't really have. There is not a lot of this super bright, vibrant, deep blue in the line. So this vampire skeleton spider mashup thing is going to undoubtedly stand out on your shelf, and it's going to draw your attention. Now, the other thing that's going to draw your attention is this thing back here. So let's pull it out. So it's of course a back adapter, and you get another chance in this tribute set. You get a chance to have 2 figures with back adapters in use. It's pretty wild. So this is the adapter, and it's sort of set to wrap around this particular sort of notch back there, and then you've got your peg. But it's a set of 4 holes that basically look like it's coming out of his back, and you've got your spider limbs that will sit back there. And for the most part, it fits in pretty well. There you go. I was kind of pegging it in wrong. But you've got your 4 very normal skeleton upper arms, but then you've got these fully bone with the hollow part of the arm showing as far as the forearms and style pose hands. So, you could take these out and just swap the arms. If you wanted this guy to have a mix of arms on the back, you could do that. And you could have these style posy hands on the front, or the entire arm, or have the exposed forearms on there, however you wanted to do it. So you've got the option, since everything's meant to be popped apart and swapped, you can use those arms on this guy, which I think is a pretty cool idea on its own, just to be able to make him a little bit more unique, even in comparison to some other skeletons, because we don't see this. All the skeletons have armor on their forearms, so this is definitely a different thing. And for customizers and swappers, it's a new way to get more parts on their figures. But I think this is a really cool, ingenious way to get a Webstor tribute. The only thing that I think I don't necessarily like is that he's really small, because they went with a skeleton. But when you get it in hand, it all kind of works, because Webstor was never a small figure. He was just like every other. So a 1.0 is what I would think he would be. But then they of course went in a very different direction. I'm no less satisfied by any means. But I do think he's pretty wild looking, and it's definitely, again, it's going to draw your attention, not just because of those arms, but because of how crazy this color is in comparison to everything else. Now, as far as accessories goes, this is definitely a balancing act between OKEAETOS and Zenithon. Zenithon is a bigger 1.0 figure with wings, with a whole bunch of accessories. This guy is a smaller 2.0 figure with decidedly less stuff, or at least that's how it feels. And I'm saying that's how it feels, so I don't take away from the fact that there is actually a lot of stuff in this box. All it takes is to look at his back, and you realize that there's a whole bunch of stuff on here. The question is, do you count that as an accessory? I don't really count it as an accessory because it's part of him. I mean, he's not the same character without the arm contraption on his back. So he's not the thing that they're trying to sell here. So there's kind of a balancing here. You've got all of the business to make him what he is, and then you get a couple accessories to kind of round out the very Webstor kind of thing we've got going on here. So he doesn't have, traditional ton of accessories. There's an extra head and there's 2 weapons, but you don't get a whole bunch of other stuff beyond that because of the fact that, well, I mean, let's be honest, there's 4 limbs on his back, so there's a lot of other plastic in this box. Now, to start with, I've already been harping. So we've got the extra head sculpt here, and keeping in line with the theme of this figure, he's a skeletal vampire spider hybrid mashup thing. You get the knight helmet, vampire head. So this is basically the same head, just with a helmet on it this time around. So it's very similar to what you get with the standard one, but you don't see the dots on the forehead, and it's got the knight's helmet. Now, one thing I'm not so sure about is the silver point on the end. You can take that off if you want, obviously. I'm not so sure why it's silver. I can't think of any reason why it needs to be silver and isn't painted more in line with the helmet. I had to go back and make sure that this wasn't just an accident, but it's definitely supposed to be silver. I think it kind of stands out. I'm not sure if it stands out in a good way or a bad way to me yet, but I do really like this helmet. I think I kind of prefer him this way so far. Something about that just kind of works. It bleeds into the armor that he's got and kind of blends the blues across the figure. Now, of course, you lose the sort of extra dot head things on Webstor to make him, more Webstor-y, but I think I can understand what they're going for here. Now, beyond that, of course, we've already talked about the arms and, the extra stuff on his back. We do get the actual Webstor-ish accessories. So we get this is one of my favorite swords in the line. So you get that sort of like jagged hacksaw kind of blade with like the gnarly branch for the hilt with this kind of like knuckle duster with the spikes all over it on the hilt. And this is done up in classic Webstor orange, which I think is fantastic. I was kind of thinking when they first revealed him that, well, kind of like Stinkor has a gun and Mephitor got the crossbow in orange. I was thinking, since Webstor has a gun, he was going to get a crossbow too. I'm really glad he didn't, because this looks great, especially for like the assassin idea that they're going for here. And I'm just not a big fan of the crossbows personally, when it comes to my own personal taste. And then we get this here, which, they always say there's nothing new when it comes to this. This is kind of new. It's just not new tooling. So this is our flail that we would normally see. But Webstor has a grappling hook, and I guess to make it as grappling hook-ish as possible, you've got your mace ball, spiked ball, and the handle, but they're just maintained with like a little string here. I don't know how I feel about this because it's not exactly a grappling hook. I get the idea, but I'm going to have a hard time actually using this, I think. It seems kind of impractical. I would have preferred it to have been on a chain, but it does look good, though. I mean, again, it sells the idea really well, and that's ultimately what we're going for here. So he does come with a few cool accessories. My favorite thing he comes with in general, in terms of actual accessories, is this, because, well, color, and it's a favorite of mine when it comes to actual weaponry. But we can't discount the fact that there is a ton of extra stuff in this box. You don't have to use this. You've now got just a skeletal vampire knight if you want to go that road. So he is certainly capable of being changed up just by having these on. And if you wanted to have an army of these guys, you can do that, and they don't have to be spider dudes. They can be whatever you want if you take that off. So yeah, overall, really happy with this guy, but I do have a couple of criticisms, when it comes to just the overall choice of things here. I don't necessarily like that mace flail thing that he's got, because I just don't know about that string. Something about it just makes me think I'm going to destroy it. And I don't really care for that silver spike on the Vampire Knight helmet, but I do really like the idea behind this figure in general. Again, did not expect this to be one of the tribute figures. It just was never on my radar. but the combination of skeleton parts and vampire heads really makes for a very evil looking creature. And when you throw that arm contraption on his back, I mean, it's undoubtedly a spiderish kind of thing, which is definitely in the Webstor wheelhouse. It's just, who'd have thought that that's what they were going to do? I mean, they were never on my radar to have done this year's tribute figures, and I think they executed on them really well within the confines of this line. And again, you know, this figure, just like Xenothon, is going to stand out on your shelf because not only is it a unique mix of parts, this is a very uncommon color in our line so far. So I'm really happy to see this when it comes to skeletal parts in general. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legions All-Stars 5 Plus PowerCon OKEAETOS. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.